Can you hear me now? Just give me 1 second. I had to make one last change. Make sure the audio is running good. Just give me a second. Alright, I can hear myself, which is a good thing. And what happens when I put a little bit of reverb? Oh yeah, you like that? You like that? Okay, well, tell you what, we are just gonna turn up the headphones a little bit. Sorry for the technical difficulties here. Check, 1, 2, okay, it's sounding pretty good, I think. I think it's pretty good. Check. Alright, so we have a very special stream tonight. And I'm not going to take too much more of your time. I'm just going to rewind. As you can see, you don't see my face. I'm not wearing a mask. The mask is no more. I am just a local lumberjack trying to live like a hermit. Alright? Thank you.
Television presentation is not for those of nervous disposition.
For thousands of years, prior to the coming of the white man, Native Americans utilized the Black Hills for ceremonial purposes.
The city-states of ancient Greece were all highly competitive, but there was one state that expected to win and usually did.
By these intergalactic. They also describe the return of these visitors and tell of the year that they will come back. Scientists have translated this as being the year 2011.
Powerful as many city-states and islands turned to her for protection from their mutual enemy, the Persians.
And indeed are inscribed as being gods from the heavens who descended upon this planet.
This, then, is the story of Mount Rushmore, its creator, its benefactors, and its many craftsmen.
Extraordinary outpouring of creative excellence that derives from one century, the 5th century before Christ. These magnificent buildings,
Such as the sport. Grand Prix, a World Championship.
What we know as granite, one of the most durable rock compounds known to man.
Oh. What if my mother comes back? Oh, we'll be back before she gets home. Don't worry. Bye-bye.
Come on, Chris. This is a story you want.
Wrong number. No problem. I'll just read my homeowner's policy tonight during WrestleMania. I'm sure I'm covered if some hunk trips on my chaise lounge and breaks his heart over me. Let's see now. You know, my garage sales always create a minor stampede. And you know the cars have to park somewhere. Hi, it's Phyllis Diller. Phyllis, your name Diller.
Jerusalem, isn't it? I recognize it from the last trip.
You are both right. Jesus is here. There he is.
Gizmo.
Now, open your eyes.
But I can't.
I think this one must be a Volkswagen.
Athens was the best.
Here, we're drawing to a close. Borglum was...
Paris, Moscow are key targets. The whole world is under attack.
Architects in
Can it
Greece,
survive?
and adorned by the greatest Greek sculptor, Phidias. Craftsmen from all over the Mediterranean. Athens buzzed with new energy, and most of all, new ideas.
Rapidly increased in popularity, and as today their names are legend.
Survivors of a descent.
Just watch pretty girls dance, or to get
Caracciolo.
Danger of our fleet is circling your...
the dreamer. The
all male affairs, there was one interesting
another
exception.
major player in the
Foreign
game.
women seized in war often became captive entertainers. One particularly clever and beautiful courtesan was Aspasia. Clees fell deeply in love with her and shocked everyone by marrying her. Even Socrates was said to love her company.
It must have been mind-blowing to be part of that atmosphere of the 5th century in Greece. So much was being invented that
Put it out.
inherited.
Why, he's one of...
I've picked one.
This way, sir.
To calculate the position of the Earth, Moon, and stars, and the first to conceive of the atom. The classic age of Greece produced some of the world's greatest and most
organization. Robinson.
the philosophers Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, the mathematician Pythagoras, the poet,
Pivotal person.
the playwrights Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Aristophanes, the historian Herodotus, and the father of medicine, Hippocrates.
These were some of the greatest minds that have ever lived, and they were all alive in this small town, more or less at the same time.
Say Jesus. Some say it started when Jesus was anointed with a very costly ointment.
Miss America.
And so,
Now, if your kids are old enough.
but Jesus rebuked him, saying, "Let her alone. For the poor always ye have."
Turn that music down! You see how well that worked? This used to be my kids' room. Now it's where my three nieces, Dorothy. Never the volume. Hey, you guys in there. Are you ready for the garage sale? Is your stuff ready?
Hello, Auntie Phyllis.
Garage sale time! Oh, Marie Antoinette, this is it?
But that's fine.
Look, kids, I'm gonna make you a deal. Whatever this...
Truly, truly, I say unto you,
Parents and tribal leaders, but in governance, in decision-making on the part of citizens, started really with the 5th century in Athens. Particularly under this extraordinary leader, Pericles, there was an opportunity for citizens to participate. It wasn't we, they. Everyone had to do it. Everyone had to give part of their time to be experienced in government. And you had majority rule. You had public debate. Everybody...
Invasion from another time and another place begins. Disbelief will be shattered, and the truth of an ancient past will be revealed. When it occurs, you will see men turned killers by mysterious power. Women will be defiled by the invaders from outer space. It could happen in your lifetime.
Yeah. Then clothing, if you have it, mention infants and kids' clothes, and larger women's sizes. Be sure to put the word clean in parentheses after listing clothes. Follow it.
Pilgrims would cleanse themselves in this spring, having
actually in the New England states. Finally, it was Jefferson who presided over the purchase of the Louisiana Territory, an act which doubled the size of the United States and helped in time to complete our manifesto. The acquisition of land from the Atlantic to the Pacific. In fact, Mount Rushmore itself is positioned on part of the old Louisiana Territory. Of all choices, Theodore Roosevelt was the most controversial. Borglum and Norbeck were enthusiastic supporters of the Bull Moose ideals. Both men knew Roosevelt's accomplishments. However,
by chewing hallucinogenic leaves. Her answers were always garbled messages the priest would interpret more ambiguously still, leaving supplicants to choose the meaning that suited them best.
Small.
Confident, energetic, and robust, Teddy Roosevelt and the American nation strode into the 20th century in a purposeful...
Sometime during the evening of July 2nd, almost obscured by rain and thunder, a crash occurred. A different sounding crash, something like an explosion. As foreman of a working sheep ranch, it was Mac Brazel's job.
National trade flourished, and America's personal interest in the growing empire were better served.
Sure, I know that it is
in addition,
dangerous.
Roosevelt was the first president to actively seek protection of rights for the working man. By his attention, he helped the nation to acknowledge the movement, and in so doing, better the conditions of work. Hence, for these reasons and more, Borglum chose Teddy Roosevelt for inclusion on Mount Rushmore. With the site dedicated and the figures finally chosen, Borglum's next important act was to attract national attention to his work for both political and economic reasons. In January 1927, President Calvin Coolidge received the first of many invitations to visit the Black Hills. It was hoped that with the president's support, funds could be raised more readily, and that an appropriations bill pending in Congress, but mired in committee, could be passed which would guarantee the project's completion. Coolidge was lured to the area by his interest in farm programs, Guts and Borglum's work, and a keen love of trout fishing. President Coolidge came to South Dakota in June 1927 and stayed the summer. No detail was overlooked. Even the stream where Coolidge fished was appropriately stocked with trout prior to the president's visit. Throughout the summer of 1927, there was feverish activity on the mountain.
Over who should
at the sheriff's office. It is presumed they were flown to 8th Army Air Force headquarters in Fort Worth, Texas, and from there to Washington, D.C. By evening, Major Marcel and Captain Cabot had arrived at Foster Ranch. Too late to gather debris, they spent the night in sleeping bags at a small shed on the property. The next morning, July 8th, Mac Brazel took the two men to the debris-strewn field. Once there, they loaded their vehicles with debris fragments and headed back to Roswell. The saucer the debris came from was found 150 miles away, crashed into a hillside. A family rock hunting in the area found the craft as well as 4 aliens. 3 of them were lying on the ground, and the 4th was seated beside them. Their bodies were small in size with large hairless heads. 2 of the aliens appeared to be dead. The family was soon joined by some archaeology students who had been working nearby. They attempted, without success, to communicate with the aliens in various languages. Before long, U.S. Army troops arrived. Without explanation, they quickly ushered the curious onlookers away from the crash and back to their cars. The area was then immediately sealed off. At around 12 noon, Lieutenant Walter Hout, Roswell Army Airfield Public Information Officer, walked into local radio station KGFL and dropped off a press release for the radio station to send to the United Press Bureau wire service. The press release stated simply that the Army had recovered the remains of a crashed flying disc near Roswell, New Mexico. Soon phone calls were streaming into the radio station, and suddenly Roswell was famous. Within hours, however, the Army officially contradicted itself. At 8th Air Force Headquarters in Fort Worth, General Roger Ramey, head of the 8th Air Force, and his Chief of Staff, Colonel Thomas Dubose, held a press conference. They stated that the wreckage was really from a weather balloon's crashed radar reflector. The wreckage presented at the press conference, however, did not match the debris fragments collected by Mac Brazel or Major Marcel. Those who would be entrusted with this sensitive information had to be trusted to keep quiet. Midwestern and Pacific Afternoon newspapers carried Lieutenant Hout's original story, but the following morning, the New York Times and Washington Post carried only the weather balloon story. The press conference had effectively killed the UFO story. Most of the people associated with the events of July 1947 have passed away. It is the children and grandchildren of these people who have come forward to corroborate their family members' participation in what has become known as the Roswell incident. Each individual story contains a piece
be released and reorganized.
An official, long-standing policy to cover up the
a major funding bill in the U.S.
extraterrestrial contact. Sightings of UFOs and their inhabitants, little green men, continued at a high rate after the Roswell incident sparked everyone's interest into watching the skies, despite the attempts of the government to invalidate the reports. Many people who saw the Chance Vought V173
The process itself was relatively simple. After crafting a model in plaster, Borglum would simply replicate
UFO stories were all over the Capitol.
Every inch on the model corresponded to 1 foot on the mountain.
On July 26th,
Borglum first took a measurement in the studio. Then, by using a boom which swung out over the mountain, he measured and correlated the features from his plaster
approaching Washington were turned
the face of the mountain and painted instructions on the rocks to his men. The controlling device was the pointing process, as it was called, whereby miners who did the blasting
1978, his car in the debris fencing beyond the arm.
Although the procedure was slow at times, it was amazingly accurate, a fitting tribute to the sculptor. From small bits to huge boulders, rock was blasted from the mountain and left to accumulate at the base. After enough stone was blasted away, the men constructed scaffolds. Air-powered tools were used to remove the last 6 inches of granite.
Look at that! Paper?
Their man has ever had the perspective to carve such gigantic figures and make them look natural.
A youth that lies in the possession of a body able to endure all kinds of contests, whether of the race course or of bodily strength. While the young man himself is a pleasant delight to behold.
Was that genius?
As the carving process neared completion,
To the Greeks, a beautiful body was as important as a brilliant mind.
work in bosun chairs suspended from above. When the desired effect was reached, a pneumatic bumper, much like a jackhammer, was used to finish the surface to the texture of a sidewalk. This permitted delicate touch-ups to be completed and also gave the carvings a polished look. It is estimated that 90% of all the carving was done with dynamite. Carefully, purposely, and gradually, from the mountain came the likeness of Washington. At first, the miners, who were merely working to make a living, were anxious to blow massive chunks.
Lost, and then disappeared. Shortly after the panic transmissions ended, the Naval Air Station at Banana River dispatched a Martin Mariner flying boat to try and locate and rescue the supposedly downed flight. After scouting for Flight 19 for only 20 minutes, the Mariner 2 disappeared. A massive search consisting of submarines, aircraft, Coast Guard cutters, every available vessel was launched. 280,000 square miles.
And a daughter to support, and raw ambition as his experience. After a short stint plastering Borglum's studio, Anderson was offered work as a rough
larger craft from another world for study. That seems to be the popular explanation, since UFO activity has been reported in that area. If that is so, why do so many vehicles continue to disappear even to this day? What would extraterrestrials do with the hundreds of air and watercraft and their thousands of passengers? Only time will tell. The 1960s saw its share of UFO sightings, and 1967 in particular was a boom year of sorts, with more photos taken in that year than any other. On January 9th, two brothers in Lake St. Clair, Michigan, were relaxing in their backyard when a UFO appeared. It was moving slowly at a low altitude and remained in view for about 10 minutes. The brothers grabbed their Polaroid camera and
they created. The whole process, from beginning to end, linked Borglum, affectionately known as the Chief, to the workers, thus united in purpose and determined to create a masterpiece beyond compare. The men who would ultimately shape the mountain worked together in unison and relative harmony.
Leads by posts that...
But both would pay a heavy...
Okay, ready, set, go.
Originally, athletes competed in the nude and women were excluded from the games. But one woman determined to see her son compete dressed up as a male trainer. When her son won, she jumped over a fence in her excitement. All was revealed. After that, even trainers were required to be in the nude. Long jumpers carried weights that would thrust them forward and were jettisoned before landing. In this way, they could add up to a foot to each jump. Than laurel or wild celery wreaths.
However, in later life, a number of the men like Hoot Leach developed
lights. The astronauts of Gemini 7 also had a similar experience when they did their time in orbit.
Loud and clear. 7, go ahead.
Bogey at 10 o'clock high.
This is Houston. Say again, 7.
We have a bogey at 10 o'clock high.
Roger.
Gemini Control here again. The reference in that conversation was
on Independence Day 1930. 2,500 people watched as a huge flag. Although it was not the finished figure that greets today's visitor, it was nonetheless breathtaking and awe-inspiring. It was just the psychological lift that the project needed. In late August 1936, another president, this time Franklin, came to the Black Hills. It was FDR, the New Deal Democrat, who dedicated the figure of Jefferson, an earlier Democrat. An estimated crowd of 3,000 was present to witness the event and to hear Roosevelt.
Hello, everybody. Just wanted to fill you all in on what we're doing here. We're making art, you know. What more can I say?
10,000 years from now, I think we can meditate and wonder whether our descendants, because I think they'll still be here, what they will think about us. And let us hope that at least they will give us the benefit of the doubt.
I hope you're enjoying the stream. I feel like it's going well. A lot of bizarre stuff. There's some cartoons for you. Yeah. Anyways, just wanted to let y'all know that there won't be a stream tomorrow. Because I will be in the city. Yes, the Hermit has to go to the city sometimes. And, this is hard to one hand. Alright, so yeah, the Hermit has to go to the city for reasons I cannot disclose. But, I hope you can hold off until maybe Sunday when, hold on.
Marriage. Admiration among men was best reflected in the...
Because, yeah, we're gonna be in the city for the next 2 days. So, there won't be a stream until Sunday. Bloody Sunday. So, just wanted to let y'all know. Let's continue with the show.
The Olympic torch still glows today, if not always with a strong, clear flame that inspires those athletes.
Always create a minor stampede. Know. They may want to sell some things too, you never know. Marge, hello! Hi, it's Phyllis Diller. Phyllis. I'm having another garage sale.
Well, you're terrific.
Dolly.
A train in Rapid City, which would take him to Chicago. He was to undergo a minor operation, but
the flyer a little bit. Had that bridge come
of activity on the mountain during the formal construction period. An era had ended. A formal dedication of the entire mountain would wait for 2 world wars, Korea, Vietnam, and 9 presidential administrations.
He claims that the reason for the clarity of his photographs is that the occupants of the spacecraft have allowed him to take the photos to prove their existence to the world. Billing has told reporters that the occupants of the spacecraft have informed him that they are from the Pleiadian star system and have come to our Earth to study it and us. He says that the aliens will allow only him to photograph them, that they open up a field of vision directly to his camera, that you could be standing right next to him as he takes the photographs and you would see nothing, but he will still capture the image on film. In addition to his remarkable photographs, Meyer has been able to...
One earned for guilty, or another for innocent. He was accused of not believing in the gods.
He says his name is Judas Iscariot. Judas Iscariot. Why, he's one of Jesus' disciples. Show him in. Yes, sir.
Okay?
Soldier and...
I've picked one convenient spot to put everything. This way I get a better sense of what I have, and I'm not forever tripping over things. Whoops. Rip. 2 minutes with a thread, and you turn away. Did your black from one of the stores? If so, you'll want to say so on the price tag. Or, if it's got a designer tag, put that on the price tag also, the name of the designer. My, what a beautiful sweater. But in July, who's thinking winter? So here's what you do. The price is to sell now. If it's already on a hanger, leave it on a hanger. And if it's in a cleaner's bag, keep it in the bag. And check the pockets for money notes. This used to be my kids' room. Now it's where my 3 nieces torture me. Some things change, but never the volume. Hey, you guys in there, are you ready for the garage sale? Is your stuff ready?
Hello, Auntie Phyllis.
Garage sale time! Oh, Marie Antoinette.
All we could find.
Suddenly began to have burning feelings in the head. Red.
It is one of the 12 that dips his hand with me in this dish.
Master, do you mean that it is I?
Thou hast said it.
This film was taken on July 28th.
Too quickly, Judas.
I wonder where he is. You'll just have to keep looking.
In Great Falls, Montana, these 2 objects were photographed over a baseball stadium in late summer 1950. At Jackson Lake, Wyoming, on August 10th, 1972, hundreds of vacationers saw this glowing orb streak through the sky.
Price tags.
This UFO was photographed in the skies of England in January 1973. On April 15, 1966, a professional cameraman was able to capture this UFO over Catalina Island in California.
of leadership died as well.
Ask around. You may be surprised to find out how many people you know that have seen one.
About 3 in the morning, I was sitting out here smoking, relaxing, about ready to go to bed, and I noticed a light over here in the distance.
Without Pericles' leadership, the Athenians were lost.
Probably a helicopter searching.
They started to make...
Still, it wasn't moving.
For half a century, Athens battled Sparta for...
Of whatever I paid.
Straight line. And I started to think, well, it is a...
Prior to the coming of the white man, Native Americans utilized the Black Hills for ceremonial purposes and hunting grounds. Rough and wild, the Black Hills remained in a fairly primitive state until early this century. The natural beauty of the area evokes a sense of well-being in the beholder. Utter peace for the soul can be found beneath the sturdy arms of the ponderosa pines, which battle on nature's harsh terms for their own survival. It is the pines, after all, that gave the region its Indian name, Paha Sapa, or Hills Black. The hills themselves are breathtaking and splendorous in their own way. But for many today, there can be no doubt as to the reason for the notoriety of the Black Hills, the unmistakable allure.
U.S. and Canada.
Fascinating reading. Now, what about UFO sightings? Let's take a look at some video and still pictures. You be the judge. That was just a small example of the thousands of sightings reported over the last few years. We do need to apologize for the quality of some of the pictures and video you saw. They were shot unexpectedly, some with home equipment, and in many cases under adverse conditions at night or clouds.
Mention of the first person central to the story of a mountain. His name
Joy, what a surprise. I think my mother's back home. She must have made these donuts. Really? That's great. Dad, where's Mother?
She must be around somewhere, I guess.
Where's somewhere? He's busy. Why don't we try upstairs? Let's go.
Elgin marbles are exhibited in the British Museum.
I entered a very large room, and there I saw
After made his first trip to the site.
the beauty that overwhelmed me of these Elgin marbles.
The rest of his life. Better
I
choice
got
could
so
not
excited, I had goose pimples all over my body.
Born in 18.
I couldn't speak, I was just on a trance.
It appears to us, as we did our research, that it's a cry for help in solving a problem they see as being very serious.
As we compiled this and up-and-coming video reports, we were so impressed of the caliber of people actively involved in UFO research, people from high-level government.
Pioneer spirit captivated his interest. The artist truly appreciated the opportunity that America gave to his parents and ultimately to himself. He was sensitive of this and never lost sight of it. Hence, when it came to expressing his innermost thoughts on canvas or in stone, Borglum sought to realize the moment of intensity in his work. Here was a perfect match.
With this horrible, unspeakable experimentations.
John Lear's is an unbelievable story. He's certain that we have been invaded by an alien culture, that they are experimenting on us, and that the U.S. government knows about it. In fact, it's their most guarded, top secret. It all began on a hot July night in 1947.
Norbeck was another South Dakotan by birth. Like Borglum, Norbeck worked hard to fulfill the American dream, rising above near poverty through hard work and drive. Norbeck turned
Durable even than stone in the legacy of Athens. This was a city whose brilliant light shone so powerfully that it defined Western intellectual thought for centuries.
It is hard to go down a street without seeing some vestige of our enthusiasm for...
This toast?
Yes, yes, this toast.
But how can I tell? It's not plugged in.
Ha! But wait. Plug it in and find out for yourself. You see, it's always a good idea to have a heavy-duty extension cord handy, and it saves all that crawling around on the table looking for an out.
Nevertheless, Borglum was still enthusiastic about the prospect of such a carving. In August 1925, Borglum returned to the hills, determined to find it.
What is known is that in 1947...
This time, he found it. Mount Rushmore, so named after a New York City attorney, Charles E. Rushmore, was the perfect site that Borglum had been searching for. It was a large chunk of granite with tremendous artistic potential.
We have collected and have in our possession at least...
which would provide for maximum exposure to the sun, a fact that was critical to the overall aesthetic effect of the completed work. Mount Rushmore was also isolated. Borglum...
communication with this alien power and actually collaborated with them. We have even built underground research facilities in top-secret areas to house.
I think we ought to inform Jesus about this plot. All right.
No one knows exactly why Judas decided to betray Jesus. Some say it started when Jesus was anointed with costly ointment.
People are being abducted.
This ointment sold and the money given to the poor.
Lear goes so far as to claim that the U.S. government has established communication for the poor power and actually collaborated with them.
One
research
himself is a pleasant delight to behold.
To the Greeks, a beautiful body was as...
And the stars and stripes were raised and lowered at events which signified...
It was in this stadium where the Nemean Games were held, one of the four great religious and athletic festivals of ancient Greece. The original stadium held 20,000 spectators.
Impersonators of the European powers. I'm convinced that Robinson's theme, that being a Western one, was too confining. Better to enlarge the theme. For Borglum.
Eaten by aliens. All I can say is my sources go right to the very top, and if it were not true, I would not be risking my life to come forward with this information.
There is no doubt that Lear understands the inner workings of the U.S. intelligence community. He's the son of late aerospace pioneer Bill Lear, and for years flew covert missions over Laos for the CIA.
He has done nothing but collect the most outrageous rumor mill stories that are floating around on the grapevine.
Bill Moore is one of the most hardworking, credible people in this UFO field. He has probably done more to expose the cover-up than any other single individual.
But, says Lear, Moore may be working with the government and only exposing parts of the truth, parts aimed to mislead the truth seekers.
All of which is totally false.
Alien and...
I had a friend of mine come through Nellis Air Force Base who I had flown with in Laos. I flew for company over there, and he flew for the ambassador. He was a Raven. And really knew him very well. He came through here about 3 years ago, and in the process of asking him where all he had been in the past few years.
Him urged acceptance of a divine
very famous flying saucer
unification. So determined and ultimately successful, one might ponder the altered course of history, both nationally and internationally, with the absence of a United States of America. Lincoln should also be remembered as the president who worked to set the slaves free. His actions were bold, to be sure, but
Let's go.
Oh, Jesus! Jesus!
Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes were assembled, and Peter followed even into the palace of the high priest, and he sat with the servants and warmed himself at the fire.
I know this man. He was
To the office. You know, and children's clothing are a great draw. I didn't. Would you at this pop tent? Oh, it's a maternity dress. Another very hot item for your garage.
after Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson was chosen for his contributions in several areas. First, he was the primary architect of the Declaration of Independence, the document which constructed the political framework for our government. Upon his...
Put the clock back and go over to Glen Ford.
There were 3 personnel on the conning tower. Myself, the starboard lookout, and the officer of the deck. His name was Ensign Ball.
You all saw it?
Yeah, all saw it. The captain was called to the bridge. He came up, followed by the chief quartermaster, who brought a 35mm camera. The craft, or another craft that looked exactly like it, came back down out of the clouds, again tumbling end over end, went into the water. And the whole thing was incredible. I was absolutely stunned. But it was obvious that it was metal, it was a machine, it did not glow like the normal accounts of...
meteors or something like that.
No. And pictures were taken. When we arrived back in port, we were debriefed by Office of Naval Intelligence officer who basically the gist of the debriefing was is you didn't see anything and you're not going to talk about anything, and if you do, you're going to be in deep trouble. So that was the end of that.
Now, both Lear and Cooper are now conducting their research in the open.
Some critics. Better to wait, they argued, until history could better judge the late president.
In 1947, there was a specific...
More readily, and...
took down a desk thereafter.
No one here was badly hurt.
Coolidge was lured to the area by his interest in farm programs, Guts and Borglum's work, and a keen love of trout fishing. President Coolidge came to South Dakota in June 1927 and stayed the summer. No detail was overlooked. Even the stream where Coolidge fished was appropriately stocked with trout prior to the president's visit. Throughout the summer of 1927,
take back your filthy money.
It's too late for the man to change his mind.
Apparently it didn't work out as he planned.
Marking pens, scissors, scotch tape, masking tape, like price.
Hello, everybody. Well, that concludes our session. I hope you enjoyed this one. I know I did. The UFO stuff was really cool.
The alien EBE, which means extraterrestrial biological entity, a name coined by Dr. Diller, who was also a member of the original study group. The government has pursued various scenarios, some of which are being implemented at this moment to try to acclimate the public
Really cool stuff.
How secret is all of this?
As Wilbur Smith indicated in his letter to Dr. Sarbacher in 1950, this matter is so highly classified because of its impact on every living being on this planet. It's classified higher than the H-bomb was. In fact, into the ultra and Q.
Yeah, I'm going to end it there. Really cool stuff, I must say. Thanks for joining. This was a fun one. I gotta figure out this demo mode, because it always does that. But yeah, thanks for coming. Not really sure what else to say. This is kind of a cool sound. Yeah, so there you go. Anyway, we're gonna end it on purple, okay? Is that cool with everybody? You know I love purple. So we're gonna end it on purple. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you Sunday.